तो हाँ भैया, आज हम रिएक्शन देने वाले हैं पार्ट 2 के ऊपर, जो पर कल वीडियो रह गई थी उसकी पार्ट 2 पे हम रिएक्शन देंगे और ये पार्ट 2 कंटिन्यूसली रहेगा और एंड पे हम आपको बताएंगे कि क्या की चीजें हैं।
Pani puri, aluchana, laping. And the one dish almost all of you mentioned, momo dumplings. Now these dishes I just mentioned came from the cuisines of the many different people groups you can find here. Nepal is just not Nepal without its people. Which brings us to...
Thank you, Noah. Follow him on Instagram.
No problem. So you tried to film without Noah last episode, huh?
Sorry, Noah. I must apologize. Now, one thing many people don't seem to know too well is that Nepal is actually a very diverse nation with over 120 ethno-linguistic people groups. First of all, the country has about 30 million people and about 2 million absentee citizens working abroad, mostly male laborers in the Middle East. Of these ethnic groups, the largest one at about 17% are the Chetri, followed by about 12% Brahmin Hill peoples, the Magar at 7%, Taru at an additional 7%, and the rest are made up of the various 121 other people groups. They use the Nepali rupee as their currency, which is pegged to the Indian rupee. They use a type C, D, and M pluck outlets, and they drive on the left side of the road. Now, linguistically, how does a country unify 125 different ethno-linguistic people groups? Well, for one, the official language of Nepal is Nepali, a cousin of Hindi, natively spoken by about 45% of the population. To simplify things, though, English is sort of used as like a lingua franca in government offices, businesses, and also within the technical, medical, and engineering scientific community. Now, here's the thing. As mentioned before, the majority of Nepal, at about 81% of the country, identifies as Hindu. Nonetheless, even though it's a minority religion at about 10%, Nepal takes Buddhism very seriously. It kind of started here. Now, of course, since there are so many different people groups, there isn't really one universal Nepalese culture. In general, though, most of them can be divided into 7 family groups that cluster into certain regions. You have the mountainous Bhotia, Sherpa, and Takali peoples, way up in the northern Himalayan zones. Yes, this is where the word Sherpa comes from. Then you have the Gurung peoples, whom are kind of like the famous bodyguards of Nepal. Many Gurung are Gurkhas, an elite military trained contingent force that fights for hire. Today, a couple thousand actually work for the British military. Then there's the Kiranti, Rai, and Limbu peoples of the east. These people are actually culturally close to Sikkim and the Bhutanese people. They speak a similar Tibeto-Burman language. At about 3/5 of the population, the Pahari peoples are actually the largest and most widespread people group, inhabiting many of the lowlands. They are known for being heavily agrarian and having wonderfully colorful wool and woven fabrics. The Tamang are made up of about 40 clans scattered in the center and east highlands. They are also Tibeto-Burman and way more Buddhist in culture. They have beautiful gompas or monasteries in every main village. Then there's other people groups like the Taru people in the south, known for having one of the most famous cuisines in all of Nepal. They are known for generally being immune to malaria due to the genetic structure of most Taru people having thalassemic blood.
Wait, what?
Thalassemic. It's like a condition that can be inherited and helps prevent against certain diseases like malaria.
So is this going to be like a new segment, like in the Namibia episode, where I ask what the definition is and you explain what it is?
Possibly, yes. And finally, even though they make up only about 5% of the population, the one group that is kind of regarded as like the originals of Nepali national identity might be considered the Newar peoples. Found in pockets all over, mostly in cities, they are known for being the most politically, economically, and socially advanced community in Nepal. In a nutshell with culture though, in the shortest way I can put it, you kind of see like this interesting Indian-Tibetan influence fusion with Nepal. And here's Random Hannah to explain.
Amongst all these groups, certain traditions are shared universally, and most are either rooted in Hinduism or Buddhism or both. The Himalayas are in themselves considered the abode of Lord Shiva, and the Hindu god plays a huge role here. Many Nepalese follow a deep-rooted tantric tradition of Hinduism or Buddhism, which allows 5 animals for ritual sacrifice. Every town has a jatra, or celebration of main god or goddess, usually followed with a procession of the statue around the town. The 15-day-long festival of Dashin is celebrated by everyone in the country. It's a huge deal. Many of you have also mentioned the Kumari, little girls that are worshipped as living goddesses until they hit puberty and the Kumari changes. And like many other South Asian countries, marriages are usually arranged and celebrated with lavish, colorful weddings.
And speaking of which, that brings us to history. Thank you, Hannah. I'll take it from here. In the quickest way I can put it, Kathmandu Valley Neolithic Age. Early records of Nepal mentioned in the Vedic Hindu texts. Kirati King period. Clans and small kingdoms period. This prince guy becomes a big shot. Vassal states under these empires. Mala Kingdom state period. This dude pieced it all together in what would become modern-day Nepal. Anglo-Nepali War. Treaty of Sugali. Caught massacre. Slavery abolished in 1924. Years of drama between the royals and the democratic experiments, massacre in the royal palace, new inherited king steps down, ending Nepal's title as the last Hindu kingdom in the world, unified communist party wins most seats in the assembly elections, earthquake, first female president voted in, and here we are today. Now keep in mind, although the ruling party is called the Communist Party, and they do hold Marxist-Leninist tenets in their policy outlook, the country is not classified as a communist country, at least in the traditional unilateral sense, but rather a parliamentary republic in which the parliament has power over the head of state, even though the parliament is predominantly part of the Communist Party. But yeah, still, it is the only country with a communist majority that is not categorically communist. Weird. Anyway, here's some famous people from Nepal. Historical figures like Amshu Verma, Princess Brikuti, Sankadar Sakwa, Araniko, Bahadur Shah. Contemporary figures like Bhimsen Thapa, Lakshmi Prasad Devkota, Jamaki Miri, Amrita Acharya, Tenzing Norgay, Gopal Prasad, Anil Gurung, Gaurika Singh, Dachiri Sherpa, Sandeep Lamichane, Prabal Gurung, Chandra Bahadur Dangi, David Lama, and of course, Siddhartha Gautama, otherwise known as the Buddha. Alright, well that just about does it for the people. Now let's see what other people like to hang out with Nepal, or at least climb up the mountains. Shall we? Now, Nepal has always kind of had like this very unique position in diplomatic policy. I mean, they're locked away in a very remote and rugged area on the planet, yet hold the key to so many international links. For one, even though about 10% of their country is Buddhist, other Buddhist countries like Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia love Nepal. Often people from these countries will take pilgrimage trips to see holy sites, especially in Lumbini. Bhutan is kind of like the only Buddhist country that they kind of have a little beef with. There was controversy over the expulsion of Nepali Lhotshampa residents back in the 90s as a means to preserve their Bhutanese culture, but today things are somewhat cooled off a bit, but there's a little bit of eye rolling. Now for best friends, yeah, most Nepalese people will probably say India or China, but it's weird because they can never have the same two best friends in the same room. China is really trying hard to win over Nepal, and things only got better after the recent Communist Party took over and ended the kingdom rule. Traditionally, Nepal has always had close ties and trade with Tibet. Chinese people love Nepalese art and architecture, tourists flock over in droves, and China has been heavily investing in Nepal's transport sector with more roadways and even a train line connecting Lhasa to Kathmandu, making it one of the biggest potential engineering project endeavors the country has ever seen. For India, most people will say, we love Indians, but we hate their government. Most foreign activity and trade comes through India, and most people can understand Hindi. They love Bollywood films, and the shared link through Hinduism has always kept these two very close. Nonetheless, India knows that Nepal depends greatly on them, and sometimes when things get a little messy, they initiate economic blockades, which anger them. Usually when this happens, Nepal cozies up with China a little bit more, in which India notices, and they're like, babe, I'm sorry, come back to me, I was just kidding. Nonetheless, when those two giants are bickering, Nepal kind of likes to run away off to the side and have a secret Romeo and Juliet kind of thing going on with Bangladesh. Many times when they want to go to the ocean, instead of using India's Kolkata port, they'll opt for Chittagong. Many Nepalese students study here, and the two have signed a 4-point agreement on technical cooperation, trade, transit, and civil aviation. Nepal even agreed to provide Bangladesh with substantial energy from hydropower. It's a unique, quite interesting alliance that has only blossomed over the years. In conclusion, with Nepal you get a mountainous, Hindu, Buddhist, unexpectedly kind of communist nation with the highest point on earth, but they sure know how to be down to earth. And speaking of down to earth, as in low elevation, stay tuned, the Netherlands is coming up next.
हाँ, तो ये रिएक्शन मैंने दिया और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। मैंने इसको पार्ट 2 में 2 पार्टों में कन्वर्ट किया और 2 पार्टों में काफ़ी अच्छा लगा। एक पार्ट में काफ़ी लंबी वीडियो थी, तो मुझे लगा शायद आप लोग बोर हो जाओगे, तो बोर करना नहीं चाहता आप लोगों के साथ कि आप लोग बोर हो मेरी वीडियो से, तो इसलिए मैंने 2 पार्टों में इसको कन्वर्ट कर दिया। जिसको पार्ट 1 देखना है तो वो पार्ट 1 देखे, पार्ट 2 देखना है तो पार्ट 2 देखे, दोनों के डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिंक मौजूद है, तो आप देख सकते हैं। सबसे पहले बात करें तो इन्होंने जियोग्राफी की बात करी, तो जियोग्राफी की इन्होंने पूरे नेपाल की हिस्ट्री को झंझोड़ा और पूरी हिस्ट्री से लेके एक एक चीज़ को झंझोड़ कर उसको सामने ला के रख दिया। तो भीमसेन टापा से लेके बहादुर तक, और इन्होंने नेपाल की फ्रेंडशिप से लेके फ्रेंड जोन तक उन्होंने बात की, शुगाली ट्रीटी से लेके काला पानी तक बात की। हर एक चीज़ को निचोड़ कर रख दिया और झंझोड़ कर रख दिया कि हर ये चीज़ें मौजूद है नेपाल में और ये चीज़ें नेपाल के अंदर हुई थी। हिस्ट्री को लेके और जो है जियोग्राफी को लेके इन्होंने सारी चीज़ों को वाज़ेह कर दिया और ये वाज़ेह करके इन्होंने बहुत शानदार अच्छा काम किया। मुझे लगा ये लोग जिस जियोग्राफी के बारे में बात करेंगे, बट जस्ट नॉट जियोग्राफी के बारे में पूरी हिस्ट्री को इन्होंने झंझोड़ के रख दिया और पूरी हिस्ट्री को ला के रख दिया। चाहे वो घूमने फिरने की जगह हो, चाहे वो हिस्ट्री के बारे में हो, चाहे वो इन्होंने के लैंग्वेजेस के बारे में हो, चाहे वो उनकी लोगों के बारे में हो, चाहे वो उनकी ट्रेड कैसी होती है, कौन से लोग कंट्रियों से इनके साथ फ्रेंडशिप है, कौन से कंट्री के साथ इनकी दुश्मनी है, कौन से फ्रेंड इनको ज़्यादा सपोर्ट करते हैं, कौन सी कंट्री इनको ज़्यादा मुआवजा देती है। इसके अलावा वो चीज़ें भी उन्होंने बयान की, मुझे यही अच्छी लगी, काला पानी की बात की उन्होंने। अगर आज की वीडियो आपको अच्छी लगी और अच्छी लगी तो प्लीज़ लाइक करें, शेयर करें, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें। फिर मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफिज़।